Lighting is important. Hey BookTube, it's Kim in Middle of the Book March, and this is my Bookish week for now I'm getting the days wrong. Sunday, July 21st? Holy cow. I don't even remember. It's for Sunday. Anyway, I had a pretty good reading week. Pretty good, but let me just go on. I DNF'd my first book of the Blind Eye Book Club, unfortunately. And I struggled with that one because it's a book club and I'm trying to finish all the books so I can talk about them, but this did not work for me. And this is The Known World by Edward P. Jones. This is a novel about a slave narrative, Henry in Caledonia, who is a black landowner who owns black slaves. And he dies, and eventually all of his land and the people who are enslaved on his land are inherited by his wife. So that alone was an interesting premise, but that really wasn't where the book took off. And Jones's writing style is all over the place. He introduces a lot of characters very quickly, but he doesn't allow the reader to get very deep into each of the characters. I didn't feel like I had enough time to get to know them before there was another one, and I couldn't tell which one I had to keep track of. He, in very short pieces, he goes back and forth in time, from the present to the past to the future, back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. And so he's kind of narrating each character's past, their present, and what happens to them in the future. It could be all in the same paragraph, it could be all in the same chapter. Those writing techniques did not work for me. And quite honestly, I've read so many novels that have to do with slavery and enslaved people and slave narratives. There are some better ones out there, and this one, I thought it was a good pick, but it didn't work, so I DNF'd it. And we had a few readers in the club who finished it and had some comments about it, which I am grateful for, but for me, it was a no. Now, after that, my week was spectacular. And I finished 2 5-star books, and I feel like I'm so excited about this because they were both just incredible in their own way. The first one was Dawn by Octavia E. Butler. This is the first book in the Exogenesis trilogy. She was brilliant. This is a sci-fi novel that introduces us to Lilith, who is a human who has survived a nuclear apocalypse. The Earth has been destroyed. It's still physically there, but life has been destroyed. And she and many other humans are rescued from what's left of the Earth by an alien species. And they are brought onto what the aliens are saying is a ship, but the ship is alive. And the humans have been put to sleep for, it could be hundreds of years. I think Lilith was asleep for 250 years. But eventually they are awakened because the point is repopulating the Earth. Now, Butler is brilliant in the way she comments on the world and cultural and political climates. I read about this book, and she actually wrote this in response to the Reagan years and the Cold War and the threat of nuclear destruction, and she was scared, and she wrote this book and this trilogy based on what would happen if we destroyed ourselves. It has so much commentary on fear and hatred of other species, fear and hatred of other races, misogyny, enslavement, family, childbirth, what this all means. It very much reminded me of the panic that would ensue within humans and within our multi-cosmic, multicultural, multi-complicated relationships with good and evil. What would happen to us if we were subjected to complete and utter panic after a nuclear destruction? What would we do? How would we reinvent ourselves? Would we need outside assistance from an alien species to repopulate and reinvent the world? It was brilliant. It was so easy to read and so easy to understand. Quite often science fiction can get bogged down in itself. I loved it. I loved everything she had to say. The characters were fascinating. The outcome of when more humans were awakened and how they reacted and what they did was a fascinating commentary. I absolutely loved it. And I have since, my daughter's in the background, and I read it on my Kindle, but I since ordered the trilogy in hard copy because that's what I do. I highly recommend it if you're looking to get into a science fiction novel that isn't overly complicated, overly ambitious, but is brilliant in its writing, is brilliant in its narrative and its commentary. I highly recommend Octavia E. Butler and Dawn, the first in the Exogenesis trilogy. Now, the other book that I gave 5 stars is a book I have in hard copy, but I listened to it on audio. And the reason I listened to it on audio was because of the narrator, who is Edward Herrmann, who was the grandfather in the Gilmore Girls, who was the crazy captain in the movie Overboard with Kurt Russell and Goldie Hawn. I really love that stupid comic movie. But this is Unbroken by Laura Hillenbrand, and this is the story of a World War II story of survival, resilience, and redemption. This is a narrative and a nonfiction book about Louis Zamperini. He was a track star and an Olympic hopeful in the 30s and 40s, but he ended up in the military right as World War II was on its way, and Japan had bombed Pearl Harbor. I could not believe how fascinated I was with this book. Laura Hillenbrand is also the author of Seabiscuit, which I adore, and it's a narrative about a horse, a racehorse. Why would I even be interested? Why would I even be interested in this? I was, and it kept me on the edge of my seat. The amount of research, the amount of information she gives the reader without bogging me down. She is a master at narrative nonfiction. This book is brilliant, and I was fascinated from day one. This starts off with describing Louis Zamperini's childhood and his family, very loving, close-knit Italian family. He was the agitator, the misfit, the precocious, get in trouble, get in, these scuffles all the time. He was almost uncontrollable as a child until he got into track, into running. And that's where he excelled, and that's what he developed to almost make it to the Olympics and to almost be the first man to conquer the 4-minute mile. He didn't quite live up to his potential because he entered the military and started he was a bomber in an airplane in World War II. There's so much to say that I don't want to say because I don't want to ruin this for anybody who picks up this book Unbroken. I have never read a story with a stronger narrative of resilience in the face of terror. He became, I don't even want to say that because I just don't want to ruin it for you. I've never read a story like this of survival. And I've honestly read so much not nonfiction, but historical fiction about World War II that at first I thought I was going to be jaded. I wasn't at all. I listened to it on audio, and Edward Herrmann was fantastic, but the hard copy has pictures peppered throughout. Let me see if I can find one. I'd like to find one of Louis when he was younger and he was doing track and everything. This is him and his family. Both he and his brother became soldiers, and Louis was a bomber in the Air Force, part of the Army, I don't remember. And here he is in a race as he's running. This is early on in his young adulthood. I was just blown away by this book. I highly recommend listening to this on audio, and if you happen to have the hardcover, the hard copy, and can look at the pictures as you're listening to the audio, it's just spectacular. This brought me to tears, and excuse me, there's not many books that do that these days, And ironically, it was this, which is nonfiction, and Red Comet brought me to tears. It's been nonfiction that has done that to me in the last few years. I actually cried a few times reading this book. It's just phenomenal. I highly recommend this one. If you like nonfiction and you like narrative nonfiction, read either of Hillenbrand's books. She's only got 2 out there. Both of them were made into films. I am dying to know if she's ever going to come out with another book. She is one of the best narrative nonfiction writers I've ever read. I absolutely loved it. So good. Both of those books were so good and so different. So, I have 2 books that I'm currently reading, and they're a very interesting combination, let me tell you. And this was completely accidental. I didn't actually intend on reading these books at the same time, but they're perfect together. I am going to be done with Demon Copperhead by Barbara Kingsolver this weekend. And yeah, it's one of the 2 Pulitzer Prize winners, and I don't want to say anything about it because I will wrap it up next weekend, but I think I only have about 100 pages to go in this big brick of a novel. And I am listening to Dope Sick by Beth Macy, Dealers, Doctors, and the Drug Company That Addicted America. Demon Copperhead is a retelling of David Copperfield, but Barbara Kingsolver set this in drug-addicted Appalachia in the 80s, 90s, and early 2000s. This is the personal accounts of what happened in Appalachia with opioid addiction. This is a phenomenally researched book, and I'm not even very far into the audio. I had a hard copy. Again, another book with pictures, and this puts the faces to the personal stories that I'm listening to on audio. If you've read Empire of Pain by Patrick Radden Keefe, that was a microscopic look into the Sackler family and Purdue Pharma, the greed and the abject humiliation that company perpetrated on normal people. These are the personal accounts of what happened to people in the Appalachian region and opioid addiction. It's so good. And the combination of those 2 books together is fascinating. And again, accidentally, I hit it right on the money. So, 2 books that are coming up. I'm going to start Farewell Happy Fields by Nora Holt. She was an Irish author. I'm reading this with Britta for our Irish Women Novelist Project. And I've said this before, but this is a loose project between the 2 of us. We don't have a schedule. We don't have timelines. We just kind of check in with each other and say, hey, are you in the mood to read an Irish author this month? Yes, we are. And so I'm going to be starting this one for the coming week. And today is July, gosh, I forgot what it is. Is it the 22nd? I don't remember. So I think it is. But the Blind Eye Book Club for the month of August is reading a novel for women in translation. And this is Daughter of Fortune by Isabel Allende, who is a Chilean author. And this is translated from the Spanish by Margaret Savers Peden. And really looking forward to this one. Blind Eye Book Club. It's been on my shelf forever. And I've wanted to read it. We're going to do that. You know what I've found to be true is if I order books from sellers in the UK, most of the time they don't have the Oprah sticker or the Jenna sticker or the Good Morning America sticker. This is not removable. It's a graphic design in the dust jacket. So we'll be reading Daughter of Fortune for August. That is it for my bookish week. We've had birthday extravaganza week because my youngest turned 16. So this is Sunday, early afternoon. We're going to be leaving soon to meet the family for a family dinner at an Italian restaurant. And then tomorrow, she has friends coming over with cake and pizza and junk food and probably some horror movie. I don't know what it is with teenagers and horror movies, but they love them. So it's either that or video games. I don't know. I'm going to shut myself up in the other room. That's it for me. Let me know in the comments below what you think of any of these books. Please go and check out Dawn by Octavia E. Butler if you like science fiction. Even if you don't, check it out if you're interested. And please pick up Unbroken by Laura Hillenbrand. I could have told you more, but I don't want to, just in case there are any of you out there that are really interested in reading just amazing narrative nonfiction. The book has been out for a while, and I think I'm planning on watching the movie. Let me know in the comments below what you think, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye, everybody.